All right, another podcast here from the Michigan Institute of Athletics in Brighton, Michigan. It's going to be an awesome podcast today. Good friend of mine joining me in the show. Before we get into it, let's go ahead and say this podcast is again sponsored by VetLife. VetLife is a 501c3 nonprofit company that was created by veterans for veterans. Everyone that I know and that you know probably knows someone that came from the military, from active duty, that has to transition back to civilian life. And that's a difficult process. A lot of people struggle with it, and a lot of people don't get what they're owed. They don't receive the benefits that they're owed, and many other aspects in society. VetLife is there to make it easier for those veterans, for the people that sacrifice for our country. We want to help you out. So for more information, please visit VetLife on Facebook or on Instagram, or simply go to vetlifetoday.org. And, feel free to shoot me a message. If you know a veteran that's struggling, have him get in contact with me. I'll put him in touch with Josh Parrish from VetLife, and we're going to get him back on track. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the gentleman here with me today, sitting with Kevin Brown. Kevin, for the people that don't know you, that don't really know your background, take us back. Were you born and raised here in Michigan? And, post high school, how did you get started in the business world?
All right, I grew up in Detroit. We moved out of Detroit, I think, back in 1983. We moved to Novi. A friend of ours introduced me to a guy that owned a horse farm. So I started working on the horse farm, learning about horses and stuff like that. I spent my whole childhood in Novi at a farm called Willowbrook Farms, where I met one of my childhood friends. I'm still friends with him today, and his wife, and a group of people we're still all friends with. I went to Novi High School, pretty much all that, and I graduated high school. I decided that I always liked fixing stuff. I learned on the farm, we fixed tractors and stuff like that. I liked working with my hands, so I went to another year of diesel mechanic school outside of high school, and I got a job at Hale's Auto Clinic in 1992. I worked there from 92 to 94 as a mechanic, an auto mechanic. A friend of mine introduced me to a high-performance guy that owned Sterling Performance in Milford, Michigan. So we worked on high-performance boats for like Don Q Crystal and all of them. After working there for 3 years, it got so stressful on the weekends. You're watching the races and the boat blows up or this happens. I mean, these guys are like, one of the guys was Don Q Crystal, and the other one was Victory Team. It was a sheikh named Sheikh Mana Ben Khalifa Al Maktoum.
I can't believe you remembered that.
Oh, trust me, it just stuck in my head forever. I mean, these guys would like build $1 million motors, run them one time, take them out, ship them back to get them rebuilt. I mean, these guys are big boys, more money than they know what to do with. And, you're watching the races on the weekend and stuff's blowing up, and you're like, oh my God, did I tighten this bolt? It just got to the point where it was just miserable. So I left there and I started working at a company called Garrett Auto and Truck Service as a mechanic, ground level. It's kind of funny, my first day there, I got in a fist fight with one of the mechanics. I was taking the heads off a 6.9 Lazy Boy truck, and I set all my bolts over on a piece of cardboard, and one of the guys came over and he ripped the board off, and all my bolts fell around. I'm like, dude, what the fuck's wrong with you? And he's like, you got a problem? So I shoved him and I swung at him and popped him in the jaw, and here comes the owner, who is my best friend now, Steve. He's like, Robert, what did you do? And I'm thinking, damn, he's not even like blaming me first. So he's like, well, I threw his bolts on the floor, and he's like, go home. He's like, sorry, man. I'm like, oh, I'm not getting fired my first day. So I worked there, worked my way up the ladder. I started managing. We started becoming more and more friends. I took over the half of the business, which was the car half I ran. In the later years, I ended up running the truck side, and I worked there for 10 years, and I bought into the place, and now I own the place 100%. I own the building, and one of the guys that grew up with me there, he's worked there for 24 years now. He's still there. I've been the best man at his wedding. Another guy that started working there 13 years ago, he's still there. We all get along really good, and business is good. So I kind of went from, zero to being a business owner.
And you're really good at creating community, and I think that's probably a big part of your businesses, and probably the reason you have success is you're good at like bringing people to be a part of a team. You know what I mean? You create a community, you share a vision, and you all work towards accomplishing that goal. But outside of Garrett, you're very successful in many different avenues. Like you ran Storm Taekwondo for quite a while. That was super successful. I mean, the Taekwondo community around Michigan, and even nationally was hearing about Storm, and you were making some serious shockwaves in that force. And, since then you guys have stepped away from the Storm side, but you're heavily involved in other businesses. My father works for you. He works for you at Motorcity Collision.
Yep.
Right. And, so you got Garrett, you've got Motorcity Collision, you have a couple other, business things that you're very, very successful in. What do you contribute that success to? Do you think it's your ability to, organize and structure your businesses? Is it your ability to bring in the right people and create community? What do you attribute your success to in business? What separates you from the pack? Because it is obvious from short conversations with you, regardless who meets you, they know that you're separate from the normal pack. What creates that?
I would have to say, I'll start at the very beginning. I believe loyalty. I'm a loyal guy. I believe in friendship. I've had some of the same friends for years, and I'm not saying we haven't had disagreements or fights, but we've been friends for years. Number one thing, in my opinion, that makes you successful in business is you're not a pussy. You have to take chances. If you're a little bitch, you're not going to succeed. Do people offend me? Absolutely. Am I sensitive? Probably a lot more than people think I am. People that are probably really close to me know I'm sensitive about certain things. I think having a strong business, this is going to sound really weird, I always find people with a little bit off personalities like me. Like either you love me or you hate me. It's just plain and simple. You've been around me long enough. Some of the shit I say to people, you're like, what the fuck did you just, oh my God. My mom said to me all along, from me being in a grocery store and a lady giving me one sucker and I tell her she's cheap. Why wouldn't you give me two? And I'm 5 and she's like, shut the hell up, kid. You're embarrassing me. I believe you should speak out. I don't think you should lie. Because if you lie, you have to remember the lies to the lies to the lies. So if you just tell people straight up, if they get bent about it, that's on them. I mean, you're being truthful, right? Did I lie as a kid? Like a fucking rug. Like most kids, right? But I changed as I got older because I'm like, it's just too hard to keep track of all this shit. So just tell the truth. And that's kind of how I am. I've been married to the same lady for 27 years.
Shout out to Marilyn.
Yeah, right. She's a fucking saint for being with me, that's for sure. I have awesome kids. I have 4 kids. I adopted my 2 younger kids. You know Cooper very well. She trained here. She did an MMA fight. She was telling me the other day, she's like, Dad, I don't know. She's talking to me and Marilyn and Jordan on speakerphone. She's like, I told them I'm on a diet, so I get 4 ounces of steak. And he's like, well, I want a whole steak. She's like, you're going to eat fucking what's left over. He's like, well, you're really hard on me. She's like, you're going to eat the fucking steak. And Marilyn's like, you can't be like that. And I'm like, no, that's fine, Cooper. Stand up for yourself. So I believe that I believe in people that speak their mind. I think they have a little bit easier way to go. But I don't think necessarily the world is being geared that way. Everybody's sensitive right now, right? You got to be careful what you say. I'm not.
I can attest to that. To anyone watching, Kevin will always give you 100% transparent, clear, exactly how he feels. And you know what? How can you not respect that? Whether you agree with him or disagree with him, you're going to know that you're getting the authentic version of him. You're getting a straightforward presentation of exactly how he feels. If he tells you no, he can't do it, you know he can't do it. So, and Lincoln is a mini you. For your son, he is the next version of Kevin that is coming up. And, and Lincoln, you're awesome if you listen to this podcast. But so you're definitely right. There's a certain aspect of first it was etiquette, then it was professionalism, and then it was, many different terms that people have coined where it's like you just can't say certain things. And I've witnessed it in the business world. I've been on the end of, I'll give you a really short story. I worked at Champion Chevrolet one time. There was a clear issue with a customer where I was like, listen, I didn't do anything wrong, and I will present this exactly to my manager. This customer is just not a good human being. This guy's a dick. So I went to my boss and was basically like, here's exactly what happened, and this it's just this customer. I can't make the guy happy, and you couldn't either. Yeah, and he basically came to me and said, like, no, the customer's right. You're wrong. It's your problem. Whatever they want. I mean, they're our business. And I've always resented that feeling. I don't like the idea that just because you are paying for a service or you're coming to a business, that makes you right. Why does that make you right? If you're wrong, you're wrong. If you come into my business and you treat my employees very poorly, I'm going to ask you to leave. I don't care that you might want to spend money here. There was like an old model. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, there was the model of whatever it takes, just make sure the customer doesn't leave.
The customer's always right.
We've all heard that, and I don't feel that way. I would rather return someone's money and have them never come back into my place of business than keep a bad energy in the environment that is then going to rub wrong all the other good people that I have. And that's something that I've respected you for, throughout the years, because I've witnessed you do it. Without a doubt, if someone comes at you or your staff or your business incorrectly, they're going to know it.
Oh yeah, we don't play. And fair is fair. Okay, a few months ago, we misdiagnosed a guy's truck, and he spent, it was $1,300 and some dollars. I don't remember the exact amount. And he called me up. He's like, "Hey, I took my truck over to the dealer because the check engine light came back on, and the cam's bad in it." And I'm like, "Fuck." I go, "Well, send me the repair order." And it misfire on 1 and 3. And I'm like, "Yep." And I called the guy back. I'm like, "Yep, we fucked up. I'll mail you a check." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Hey, we fucked up. Okay, it's easier for me to cut you the check for $1,300 than sit there and worry about you writing bad stuff about me. We screwed up, and I admitted it, right?" I had another guy come in that we basically told him his truck came in, it was in limp mode, we only go 40 mile an hour. We cleaned the DPF system, I'm not going to get all technical, reset it, but the computer wouldn't set it, it had a glitch, so it had to go to the dealer to get reprogrammed. Well, he goes to the dealer, and the dealer's like, "Well, they never did anything to the truck." And I'm like, I pulled up the security camera, I showed the guy, I'm like, "Look, let's pull it out, here's the receipt, everything," right? He wouldn't go for it. So finally I just told him, "Listen, take me to fucking court then, because you know what? We didn't do nothing wrong. Here's the paperwork, you signed it." So yes, if we mess up, we'll stand behind it. But if we didn't mess up, we're not going to bend over.
Yeah, and how can you not appreciate that? Like I said, if you're listening to this, how many people in business are going to go out of their way once you're gone and to say, "You know what, we messed up. That's completely our fault. Here you go. We're going to take care of you." You're going to get the straightforward story from a gentleman like this. And that's just, in my opinion, that's better. There's less bullshit. I don't want you to bullshit me. I'd rather just have it straightforward. Tell me exactly how it is. Either, yes, I'm in the wrong. I need to pay the bill and it is what it is, or say, "No, you know what? You're right, man. We really did make a mistake and we're going to make it right for you." That is a reflection of character. And character like that will make people come back to you and have a way more loyal customer base than anything else. You know what I mean? It's not smoke and mirrors. "Hey, here's our advertisement. Look, we're the best." I'm not going to put any company on blast, but I recently took my vehicle in somewhere and it was a disaster to the point where now the manager got involved. They accidentally missed the frame on putting my car up in the air and bent the rocker all the way through. I went in to see the car with my dad, and we were walking around the car, and I go, "Oh my God, is that?" And my dad goes, "Yep, it's not on the frame. They have it up on the air." Bent the rocker, spidered the paint. And I'm like, "Oh my God." Now, don't get me wrong. They're doing the right thing for me now. But it's just that idea that, I don't want you to bullshit me. If something goes wrong, man, I make mistakes. You make mistakes. I'll make it right if I make a mistake. But don't, just be upfront is what I was trying to get to there. It's difficult to tell this story in detail because I don't want to put anyone on blast. But
we all get it. Yeah. Exactly.
You get what we're saying.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit. You have the Trump hat on. Keep America Great 2020. What has 2020 been like for you, man? I mean, a lot of people have suffered this year, but a lot of people have thrived. What has 2020 been like for you?
I will tell you, March 14th, I'll never forget. That was the day when all the shit started to hit the fan. You know this story. I was having all my sandblasting. Your dad was dealing with a guy in New Hudson. And I'm not going to say his name. The guy we were feeding him. He'd call us and go, "Hey, you got anything?" We'd be like, "Yeah, this guy's been treating us good. We'll do it." Well, your brother Nick, who also works for me, called him up and said, "Hey, we need this trailer done." And he basically told Nick to go fuck himself. And Nick's like, "Dude, what's your problem?" "I don't have a problem, but just fuck off." I mean, literally verbatim what he said to Nick. So your dad calls me. He's like, "This fucking guy, I can't let Nick go down there. He'll kill him." And I'm like, "No." I go, so I'm just like, screw it. So I called the guy up and I said, "I'm going to buy a sandblaster tomorrow, and I'm going to make it my life mission to put you out of fucking business." So that was Friday. I called the number to Duff's Sandblasting all week until the president answered the phone. It's like, "Who is this guy leaving all these messages?" And I'm like, "I want to buy a DB800. I'll be there Monday. I'm leaving today. I'm going to write you a check for this bitch. You got one?" He's like, "Yep."
And where's this located? I remember you made
Texas. So I called Steve Garrett, and I drove to Texas, and on the way back, after I just wrote that check, it was over $50,000. The world's coming unglued. We're all going to die. I'm like, oh my God. And I called Maryland. I think I made it into, I don't remember, but I parked and I went upstairs and I was sick to my stomach. I called her up and I started bitching. I'm like, man, we just spent all this money. I'm like, what am I gonna do? And she's like, you need to stop being a pussy. She's like, I'm like, oh, thank you. And I'm like, okay. So I remember I laid in bed at night thinking, I'm like, okay, if I'm in this position, everybody else is in this position, right? And I'm a little bit smarter at business than most people, and I'm being arrogant here, so I had money set aside, so I'm like, okay, I can weather the storm. And I knew we wouldn't have to close down like everybody else because we work on fire engines, ambulances, police cars, and all that. So I called my marketing guy the next day. He's like, well, what do you want to do? You want to cut back? I'm like, nope, you need to quadruple all the marketing. He's like, you're going to spend like 20 grand extra a month per company. I'm like, yeah, but we're going to go out in style. So we started selling sandblasting. Well, the work at the collision shop dried up because people are freaking out, right? They're not knowing what's going to happen. And you could drive around with a rusty fender. So we started sandblasting. And we just kept sandblasting, kept doing it. People would just drop it off when they closed everything down. We would do it, and they'd pick it up outside the gate. So we were good. So we did well there. Garrett Auto and Truck never missed a beat. I was really scared. I'm like, okay, what's going to happen? But it never stopped. We just stayed right on through. Motorcity got a little bit slow. It is what it is. We had a guy that wanted to buy this Taekwondo and the jiu-jitsu school. I didn't want to sell the jiu-jitsu school, so I closed it because that was kind of, you know the story of that. I started training with you as a blue belt. I opened the school. We were super successful, and I want to touch back on that because it's a mindset thing I wanted to talk about. So we sold the Taekwondo school to a guy, which kind of worked out for us. We didn't end up having to pay rent during COVID, and we were both, me and my partner, both kind of just tired, dealing with parents. You know how it is, and just everything. We had good people, but it just was getting tough because we're doing our day
Plus,
jobs.
you juggle 1,000 other things.
Right, that's what's the main thing. We're both tired. So 2020 is very interesting. I'm a little bit nervous about the election because I think there's a lot of cheating going on. I mean, they're finding ballots everywhere. Hate me or not, fact is fact, okay? And the thing I always find about it, what I find funny is the news is always hiding everything. Donald Trump has never done anything right, ever, since he's been president. Nothing, right? But before he was president, look at everybody loved the guy. He even helped Kevin at Home Alone, for Christ's sake, right? You didn't see Joe Biden doing that.
You remember that scene? It was in the hallway of the hotel. I remember that from my childhood. It was literally in the hallway of the hotel. You had Donald Trump, I think was giving him directions which way to go. I remember that. I mean, he was on his own reality show. Trump was a brand across the nation. He was heavily involved in boxing. Like, everybody knew Trump, and he was in the casinos. His brand actually, in the, I don't know if it was 80s or 90s, meant success. Trump was like directly tied into like being a winner.
I agree totally, and he's a good businessman.
Let's actually talk about the martial arts a little bit. So let's wind the clock back. How did you initially get involved in martial arts? You said, I think your first ever one was Taekwondo. Mm-hmm. And then tell us a little bit about that story, that journey, and then how you got into jiu-jitsu, and then your progress through that journey. And then let's talk about the mindsets and just, anything that martial arts did for your life.
All right. I started out, I was 307 pounds. I had gastric bypass surgery. And Shane,
And how old?
That was 11 years ago. So I'm 49 now. So I was like 36, 37. And I'm not that guy that likes to go to the gym. I hate sitting on a treadmill lifting weights. So my friend Shane was into Taekwondo. So I lived in Commerce. He was in Howell. I'm like, eh. So he turned me on to a place called Everest. I went there. I started training. And as anybody knows me, I don't go at something 10%. I go at 150%, right? So I started training 5 days a week, sometimes Saturdays, all 3 classes. Boom, I'm going Taekwondo, right? 3 years later, I get a black belt. In the meantime, I learned about Scorpion in the old building. What role was that over there in Brighton?
Yeah, it was by Michelle's Academy of Dance right across from Brighton Chrysler, which is called Appian Way.
Yes. So I go there and I come and do a couple classes, and then I met you. You're like, hey, bro, you should try jiu-jitsu. I'm like, look at this fucking runt. I'm going to kick his ass. So you're like, all right. I'm like, all right, I'll do a lesson with you. You're like, all right. So I remember you go in the cage, and you lock it, and you're like, you could do whatever you want to me. I'm like, you're fucked. I go to kick, you freaking double lag me, and you freaking commence to whooping my ass for the next hour. And I went out to my truck afterwards. I was a man about it. I went out to my truck. My hands were shaking. I held the steering wheel. I go, what the fuck just happened? Then I'm like, okay, I could leave and never come back. I go, fuck that. I go, I want to learn. So I remember calling you, and I left you a message because you're teaching. I'm like, you need to call me. We need to start doing lessons like tomorrow. And we did lessons 4 years.
Yeah, almost 3 sessions a week for like 5 years.
Yeah, and I would come to the classes, and I just ended up loving jiu-jitsu. And the one thing that sticks out to me, and I think it made me better as a man, as a person, it changes your mindset. Okay, you're getting your ass kicked all the time, and anybody who knows jiu-jitsu knows this. You're getting your ass kicked. Well, eventually it turns a little bit where you start kicking people's asses. You're like, all right. And I remember even right before I got my purple belt, right, started testing for my purple belt. As a blue belt, you held me down for like an hour. You were like holding me down, trying to get me to flame out, and I didn't flame out. And I was like, that was like the turning point of my life, because I remember the first time you hit with knee on belly. I can remember where we were in the old gym. I thought my spine just came out of my back. I'm like, I just died. And I remember you would hold me down, and I'd freak out and think I was going to die. And you just get past it, and you actually become comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's the best way to describe it. Like, I wouldn't panic. It's like being underwater and knowing how to be underwater and hold your breath, relax. And it just changed my mindset. So I believe when we started the Storm Jiu-Jitsu program, we went to these tournaments, and everybody's like, who's this clown? Because we went there with the Storm Taekwondo at first, right? We went to our first, what was it, EFG?
EFG, yep.
EFG, and it wasn't a big turnout, but we whooped ass. We whooped ass. And then we went to our second one, was a Fuji, and we went in there and whooped ass. And I firmly believe that was my mindset from training with you, having it hard all the time, and I taught my students the same way. Would I say our basic technique was better than most schools because we stuck with basics? You're like, just teach basics. You'll win with basics, number one. Number two, they have to have the mindset. And our kids had the mindset. And that was the secret to our success. And that's the secret to my success now.
They really did. I mean, your kids, anyone that watched your kids' program or go back and watch videos of them competing, they had like bulletproof mindsets in children. And I mean, you don't find that in adults. 95% of the people that'll walk in these doors, if you put them under the circumstances that those children were enduring, they would crumble and they would fail. You know what I mean? Because they couldn't handle the stress and like the ego taking a massive hit of like, how is this person holding me down and strangling me over and over, and I can't solve this problem, and there is something powerful about that. And I also think that it's even spilled over into your companies. I think you've engaged in that mindset so much, and you see the value of it, that you're trying to get other people to understand that kind of killer mindset, which is almost like, remember when you went to Vegas for like that 10X seminar? Mm-hmm. I bet you it was along the same lines. It's the idea of you have to learn how to turn your mind into the weapon and unlock the potential within yourselves that so few people have. Most people never really test themselves. Like after you get out of high school, if you're not in sports or you're not in something super competitive, how are you really testing yourself? And I mean in like those deep water, those dark places, someone putting their knee on your neck and, trying to mentally break you in a training session. I just don't know if there's much of that in our society. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Are people regularly going through events that are strengthening them physically, mentally, and technically? Because obviously, yeah, people go through tough times. People level up from tough times. But there's something about the physical altercation where another human being is trying to dominate you against your will that just reshapes the brain, and it makes you a different level of a human being. Like the Kevin that sits here today versus even just the Kevin before jiu-jitsu. How is that man different?
Oh, it changed my confidence level and everything. I was confident as it was, but now I'm really confident. And, I've had guys like at gas stations, whatever, we've all had altercations. Everybody acts like an asshole, especially right now. Everybody's under stress. They look at you like, I'm going to kick your ass. And, before, maybe the hair on your neck would stand up. You're like, okay, this is going to happen. Now you're like, chuckle. You're like, if you grab a hold of me, oh, my God, this is going to be bad for you. And they have no clue. You know what I mean? Because I got the dad bod going on frickin', whatever. But it's kind of funny. You've had it too because you look the other way. You're a small guy, and they're like, I'll whip his ass. I'm like, grab a hold of him. See how that works out for you.
So I want to talk a little bit about your success in business more because I'm fascinated by it. I've learned a lot from you, being around you all these years and witnessing how well you structure things. One of the things I took most from you was you're so unbelievably good with your numbers, and you know exactly, what's going on kind of at all times. Like, you understand your business to an extreme detail. And I really started to work on that, and I've leveled up in that tremendously. What else would you contribute your success to? Because it seems like everything that you do put your hand in does very well. Like, you took over Storm, you absolutely dominated Storm. Like, every other Taekwondo school was basically reaching out to you saying, like, how do we do what you're doing? You get into, a completely separate field of automobile repair, sandblasting, whatever you do, you tend to do well. I guess as much as you'd want to share, what are you doing different where pretty much every project you get into, you find a way to be successful?
Number one, I believe having smaller crews and paying them more money. Okay, there's a lot of companies out there that will have 25 employees, pay them all mediocre, right? Well, maybe I do it with 7 or 8, but pay them very well. And I look for good people. Like, my wife I drive my wife nuts. She's like, why are you staring at this waitress going back and forth? I'm like, because I'm watching how she's interacting with the people, because I might need an office staff. So I get a lot of my people from outside, by going to restaurants, or they deal with them in a store or whatever. Like I told you with Courtney, I'm like, that girl's gold. Just watching her interact, right? So I believe, number one, you have to have good teams. They have to know the rules, and they have to know that they're in charge when they're in charge, right? I believe in structure. You have a manager and you have workers, right? You listen to the manager. If it can't be handled by the manager a problem, then the manager comes to me. I believe in structures. I believe in systems. Like, for instance, it took me a long time to figure this out. I'll just give you a quick rundown of it. At Garrett Auto and Truck, you drop off your vehicle. I spent a lot of money. I'm probably the only person in Michigan right now that has digital handheld phones. Everybody else uses tablets. Well, the Wi-Fi goes in and out on tablets, and everybody complains about it, right? Well, they don't want to spend the money. So I went and bought Notes, Samsung Notes, and I put 4G on them. So now all my mechanics have one. They can go on test drives. They have their work orders everywhere, right? So they walk in, customer walks in, they walk outside, they walk around the truck with them, they punch them all in. We print a key tag. When you walk in, they pull the key tag off of the printer. Why? Because we used to forget keys all the time. The customer gets all the way home, go, hey, bro, you forgot your keys. They have to drive all. So it's little systems that take years and years to figure out. Makes you more successful because your people aren't wasting time looking for keys, calling people, stuff like that. This is one little thing. So I believe in strong systems, good people, and paying them well.
So you're almost in a constant state of evaluation too. You never settle on what you're doing. And
no,
that's something I can testify for you. That drives you nuts, you're going to say. Mm-hmm. I mean, you find systems and you go, what can I do to make it better? So let's that leads into a perfect another topic. A gentleman like you have tons of money, you're very successful, you have a good family, you have all these things going. What do your goals look like? What does 2 years down the road look like? What does a 5-year goal look like?
I want a jet. I want a frickin' jet. You know what I want a jet, so I'd be like, hey guys, let's go frickin' to Vegas. Let's meet me at the airport. I want a jet.
Think about the mindset of a gentleman that's saying, listen, I'm already successful. I could easily sit down, rest, kick my feet up, enjoy the sunsets with my wife. No, you're on the level of, I'm going to acquire a jet.
Yep.
I'm going to get to that level. Do you see yourself continuing to venture out into other business opportunities and starting other businesses, or are you really dialing in and investing in what you got, and you believe that you can build it to the level where you're producing that level of success? Because I want to know what the percentage of Americans that own jets are. It can't be high.
Yeah, it's like $1 million just in maintenance a year. Pilots are $450,000. I mean, you're talking $1.4 million before you even pay the jet payment or the fuel. I mean, that's a big boy game. I had a chance to buy a couple shops, and I won't mention any names because I don't want to throw the guy up, but I worked for him at one time, and I told him when I was leaving to go somewhere else, he's like, what do you do? I said, I'm going to come back and buy this motherfucker someday. And he only had one at the time. He laughed. Well, he called me a while ago, and he's like, hey, you want to take me up on it? I'm like, yeah, I probably will. So we talked. I just think it was the right time. What I'm starting to learn now, since I got out of the martial arts business, that took a lot of my time. I was spending a lot of time with other people's children. My children were not spending a lot of time with me. Well, now I'm into buying and selling motorcycles with Lincoln, doing a lot of stuff. And this goes to show you my personality. I had Trail 70 as a kid, right? I bought 15 now since I don't have the school. Like, I've been rebuilding more. I have a whole barn full of motorcycles. My wife's like, what the hell? But, so no, I don't think I'm going to do any more. I think I want to wind it down, get the 2 places I got going right now, keep the real estate going up because it's only going to go up, hopefully, depending on the election. And I think I'm just going to kind of chill out. I've been riding motorcycles on the weekend with the kids and stuff like that. Just enjoying myself because I haven't really, before I would get up in the morning, go to Motorcity, go to Garrett's, and go to Storm. I get home at 11 o'clock at night every day. Or I would go to Motorcity, depending on the day. Garrett's, come and train with you for an hour, roll hard, go and do private lessons at Storm, then teach class till 9. It was brutal. I did it for 3.5 years. So
now you're really kind of like taking a step back, enjoying everything. And I did see on Facebook, I saw all the motorcycle pictures and stuff. And that's like a thing I love about your personality. You're an extremist. You are a gentleman that cannot do things normal. Like, you have the 2018 Corvette or the 2019?
19, yeah.
You have the 2019 Corvette, and you sent me a picture the other day of the 2020, and you said, what do you think? You know what I mean? And I'm just like, that's your personality type. But that's also, I feel like your life is a lot of fun, is it not?
No, absolutely.
There's a lot of fun in your life. A lot of people kind of float through in a very mediocre, monotonous, like, oh man, I gotta get up again. It's Monday. You don't live your life that way. You really enjoy the things you do because you are an extremist. You're gonna go above and beyond. If you and Lincoln aren't just gonna hit the trails, you're gonna hit the trails with 14 different options while you're rebuilding the bikes, and he's gonna decide what place you ride to. You know, like that's an awesome way to live. And you don't really see that as much anymore. You know what I mean? You see a lot, 90% of people are just doing what they have to do to get to that tiny little bit of time that they have on the weekend to go right back and do it again.
Yep. They don't stop to smell the roses. They really don't. They're being stressed out about being stressed out,
100%.
Yeah.
Let's only briefly, let's talk a little bit about the election coming up, because there is, and you can say as much or as little as you'd like, but there is definitely an extreme power struggle going on right now in this country. And the citizens, more than anything, are like puppets being yanked different directions by media, by all different sources out there telling us, think this, believe this, don't listen to that, watch this. And it's maddening right now because you have people that have been longtime friends turning on each other. You have cities being ripped apart. You have rioting and looting and you have protests all over the nation. I mean, the nation's in a state of chaos, and in my opinion, I don't think it's going to get better this month. I think it's going to get worse. And then you're going to mix in flu season's coming. Flu season's going to be here in no time. People get sick. It's part of life, guys. You get sick. But you know what's going to happen? As soon as people start getting sick, now all of a sudden the media is going to zzz right back up. And now we have an election on top of that. What do you think the next month looks like? What are you expecting from the election? If the current administration wins, what are your expectations? If the current administration loses, what are your expectations? Just kind of anything you want to say on the election, because I know it's on a lot of people's minds. So pretty much everybody that I bring in during the month of October, I'm going to say, hey, what does it look like to you?
But what if I offend somebody?
They can effortlessly press stop. If at any point you don't want to hear the following result, press pause, skip forward. Put your head in the sand. It doesn't matter. People have different opinions, and we should be able to respect people on different sides of a spectrum. This building is a perfect example. I have people that are the farthest left, extremist, liberal human beings that train here, and I have the people the farthest right, no laws, free reign, conservative, I should own guns and stand out my property naked if I want to. I mean, we have every side, but you know what they do? They come in together, they interact together, they treat each other with respect, they're good to one another, they try to level up, and they keep their opinions out of being good human beings. You know what I mean? So whatever you would like to say, if people don't want to listen to it, it is your choice to be offended. You don't have to pay attention if you don't want to.
So let's start out with the debate. At first, I thought about it really hard. I'm like, man, I wish Trump would shut up and let him talk. Then I got talking to a friend of mine. We got talking about the Paul Ryan debate with Biden. Remember how he came out? He was very articulate, had everything laid down, his talking points and everything. He's very respectful. Biden bullied the hell out of him. Oh, shut up, man. You're wet behind the ears, blah, blah, blah. Kicked his ass in that election. So I believe that Trump's people prepped him very good for that. Everybody kind of knows he's a blowhard. I'm a Trump fan. Do I think he talks too much sometimes? Absolutely. Shut the hell up. The Twitter drives me nuts. I'm not going to lie. But whatever. That's him, right? I didn't hire him to be my priest. Okay, so I voted for him to do a job, right? He's running America like a business, and they're all pissed off about it because he said, I'm going to drain the swamp. And guess what? The good old boys club is being broken up. These people are making $40, $50, $60 million. Their net worth is how? You make $200,000 a year. Okay, I wish he would have really pushed the Hunter Biden thing. why does Hunter Biden get $3.5 million? And how much did that cost the American people? He should have looked right in the mirror or into the TV and said, hey, folks, you're all at home struggling to pay your bills, not knowing where your next meal is coming from. This guy just got $3.5 million for what? What did that cost you and your family? The Biden family, they're an organized crime family is what they are. Am I saying Trump hasn't done anything shady? I don't know. Every billionaire, I'm sure, has had hookers and snorted coke off of hookers. You know what I mean? It is what it is. I think that if Trump wins, I think that the rioting is going to get worse, but I think he'll squash it. I think he'll really go. They're trying people right now. It's a sedition act. They got it squashed right now, which carries a death penalty. There was a phone call that came out from the governors, to the governors that basically said you need to start trying these people that are running these rings. When you catch them, you need to start trying them under the Sedition Act. You can look it up. I'm not going to get into all that, okay? They're trying to get to the top of the pyramid to see who is pulling all these strings, right? If Biden wins, God help us all, right? Our taxes are going up. We're going to be screwed, number one. The rioting is going to stop because they're the ones calling the shots, right? So he's going to make America safe, in my opinion. Yeah, he's going to call Antifa up and go, yeah, okay, stop, we won. And they're going to stop, and they're going to look, Trump couldn't do this? Well, how can Trump do it when he's not pushing it? Okay, and the media is horrible. I mean, it's ridiculous what they're doing to Trump. I mean, the guy's got a thick skin, right? He's never done anything right. Just ask the media, ask American people. There's realistic people like us that know he's done stuff right. I was talking to a friend of mine's, his grandma, her insulin, I don't remember the numbers. I think it was like over $600 a month for insulin. It's down to $35. When you're making $1,200 a month on Social Security and 50% of it is going to your medication, not much left for rent and food, is there? Your kids have to help you. All of a sudden, that $600 bill, whatever it was, goes down to $35. That's a lot of money back in her pocket. He didn't get any credit for that. He didn't get any credit for any of the treaties he's done. I mean, I just think it's been pretty bad on him. I think they've been horrible to the man.
Yeah, normally I try to stay out of politics as far as I can and just focus on kind of my circle and things. But I tell you what, during the COVID thing, I watched every White House briefing in its entirety from start to finish, whether it was 1 hour or 3.5 hours. I watched every single detail. And so I would see the full thing unedited in pure form, and I could make a perception based on that. Okay, this is what I pulled from that. And then I would go and watch the media reports because I've heard forever there's terrible slanting in media and everyone pushes an agenda. But I was like, I want to really see because I have nothing else to do. So I'm going to watch these White House briefings, try to understand what Trump is conveying, what is Fauci conveying, what is Birx conveying. And then I went and watched the media reports, and they were so unbelievably slanted that as a person, I'm going to make an admission on this podcast. I've never voted in a presidential election. I literally have stood out of the way and said, I'm focusing on the MIA and SFS, baby. But I watched that, and I was like, this is extreme. And that alone gave me a distrust for the media. Because all of a sudden I'm going, wait a second, why do you need to slant things that horrendously? Someone you hate can say information that is correct, and you have to go, well, the information is correct. And someone you love can say something that is horribly incorrect, and you have to say, no, that's incorrect. The media, the presentations I watched, because I was like, okay, I got time. I'm going to watch CNN's report. Then I'm going to watch Fox. Then I'm going to watch MSNBC. Then I'm going to watch these other ones. And I'm going to see, I watched the full unedited thing. I know exactly what happened. I know what the words were said. I understand the context. Man, it was madness. And then it really put me on to my God, the way that they take and shape information and present it to people. It's like you're presenting it in a way where you already have a conclusion that you need someone to draw. I need my audience to think this. So if I portray it in this way, I'm more likely to do it. It's madness. And I tell you what, for someone like me that likes to think for myself, that likes to weigh options, that doesn't just roll over on command, it made me go, whoa, why they have such an incredible hatred for the president of the United States of America. There's something weird there. You know what I mean? Because I remember being a young child, that's the highest position in this country. You have respect for that gentleman. Absolutely. Respect. I watched reporters cut him off nonstop, talk over the president of the United States. I couldn't even imagine, if I wound back to childhood, thinking of the idea of speaking over the president of the United States of America. We now live in a culture where someone that's a reporter thinks they can just, talk over the president and interrupt them and be belligerent. That is unbelievable. Now, am I saying that Trump doesn't do those things back? No, not at all. But how can you not have respect for the elected president of the United States of America, whether you agree with him or not? If I hated him as a human being, I thought he's the worst person on earth, I would still respect that he is the president of the United States of America. If I loved him like crazy, I would respect that he's the president. Where has that gone? I think it shows more about society and more about the media than it does about Donald Trump. The way they report on him and the way that people react about him, there's like this weird sickness, and even some people I know that like Trump is in their heads so badly.
Rent free, baby.
If they see the word Trump, they're like infuriated. Listen, Donald Trump probably has not affected your life at all. If you're sitting at home,
just like Barack Obama didn't affect your life.
Listen, if your life sucks, it probably sucks because of you or your direct circumstances, not because of Donald Trump. Just like if you were, let's say, because I don't want people to think I'm pushing him or I'm against him. If you were in the Obama era, your life did not most likely suck because of Barack Obama, and it wasn't most likely great because of Barack Obama. It is you. If you are hating this existence that you're a part of and you're hating this country, go to your bathroom, stare in the mirror, and figure out what is going on in your life that you carry those type of emotions. So, yeah, man, it's made me have a weird feeling of distrust. I mean, I never take the media serious. I haven't since I was young. I just go like, hey, I'll just read things on my own. I'll formulate my own opinions. I'll weigh things versus my moral compass. But witnessing it through the COVID era was wild.
And even if you don't agree with somebody, you don't have to hate them. That's what everybody's forgot, okay? I can disagree with something with you, but I don't have to hate you. We have a disagreement, right? But the minute you wear a Trump hat and you disagree with somebody, what are you? You're a racist. No, I don't have a problem with black people, yellow people, orange people. If you're an asshole, you're an asshole. Like, I've had people walk up to me in the grocery store, like, you're not wearing a mask. I'm like, mind your own fucking business. My wife's like, oh my God, you're getting in a fight. But mind your own, since when is it your business to tell me what I'm doing? And then they're like, mask up. You're being selfish if you don't wear a mask. Well, what if I have asthma so bad? There was a article on there where there's this World War I veteran. He's missing half a lung and can hardly breathe. And somebody started giving him a hard time about wearing a mask. He's like, I can't even hardly walk into the grocery store without a mask. And you want me to wear a mask? Mind your own business.
I mean, when you overregulate anything, when you attach a ton of rules to things and you give people a fake authority, you know what I mean? Because that's what it is now. You have all these people that are probably have zero power in their lives. They don't have a lot of authority. Now all of a sudden they can jump down your throat and guess what? I'm powerful. I got to tell you this. Man, let people live their lives. And don't get me wrong. I don't even want to go into the topic of masks or anything because we've all beat it to death. Like, all I'm saying is, do better for your life and your family and fixing yourself as a human being, and the world will be better than what you think it is. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only thing that I can say, and maybe this is wrong, and I'm going to preface this with, I could be incorrect with this, but it does feel like to me that one political party despises this country. They don't like it. They don't like the United States of America.
They don't like freedom.
They do not like the United States of America. And the other party seems to love and embrace the nation. And don't get me wrong, whether you're on the love and embrace side, you know there's problems and you want to fix them. And you want to continue making your country better. And you want to provide a better community for everybody, every color, every creed, every background, every social status. We should all want those things. But the idea of supporting a group that, in my opinion, at a very deep level is fueled by hatred or negative emotions about the land of which we live in, that's a difficult prospect. You know what I mean? Like, I never follow hate. I try not to follow hate. I try not to follow fear. I try not to follow things that are rooted in negative emotion. You know what I mean? So, like, if you hate this country, I'm not as likely to listen to your suggestions about what we should do. If you loved what this country stands for and is meant to be, and you want to work towards that, I'm in full support. Because I grew up in that little ignorant delusion that I thought we lived in the greatest country in the world, and freedom reigned supreme here, and like justice was real, and the courts were legit, and if you're a bad person, bad things come to you, and if you're a good person, you'll rise. Listen, I know there's a fairy tale that we're sold when we're young. But like, if you don't at least have a love for your land and for your people, I'm not going to listen to anything you have to say.
I just say, what I always tell people, if you really want to see what the plan for the future is, go read the Green Deal. That Green Deal is enough to scare the living shit out of anybody.
I haven't read it.
Read it.
I'm going to now.
Oh my God.
Because Trump lightly started to bring it up in the debate, and it got squashed extremely fast.
Yeah, they basically, it's basically a socialist agenda. They're basically saying the government's going to give you food, they're going to supply this, they're going to supply that. Oh yeah, 99% of vehicles will be outlawed. Yeah, it's radical.
Wow. And listen, if you think America sucks, travel. Listen, I've been to rural China. The way that those poor people live, it will rip your heart out. We went to a couple villages with a bunch of the fighters when we were over in Kunlun with Zach, and I think it was Zach and Taylor that I was with, or it might have been Alicia. Pretty sure it was Zach and Taylor when we were in China. These children, they have nothing. There is a hole in the ground for them to take a shit in. I'm not even kidding. We literally stopped at one point. There was a hole cut in the ground. There was a rope hanging in case you wanted to wipe. It was like the conditions that those people live in are brutal. And you don't get to have a voice there. Your opinion doesn't matter. Right. You don't get to go outside with a sign and say, we want to fix these things because we have a First Amendment here. Over there, you'll disappear, and hopefully it's just you and not your family as well. You know what I mean? And do you want that? That is the opposite of what every human being on earth should stand for. If we value each other and we value ideals such as freedom, we should be working towards making a better, healthier society, not trying to rip things to pieces. And like I said, don't mistake me. I know there are plenty of things that we can do better. But if you look back every decade, we have gotten better at most of those things. And if you will not acknowledge that, you're delusional. You're lying to yourself. We've gotten better as a country. Like I said, travel. I've been in the favelas in Brazil. It's horrible. If you live in America and you think you have an extremely difficult life, you're probably nowhere near what most people endure. Are there probably extreme spots of poverty scattered throughout this country? Absolutely. But that's the norm for many places around the world. And we don't want that here. We believe in things here. So I would just say, man, really make sure you people at home are reflecting in the mirror. You're basing your things about caring on other people and love, and you're not fueled by hatred. If you see a name, if you looked at his hat at the beginning of this video and instantly wrote him off as a human being without knowing him, without interacting with him, you're the problem. You're the problem. Before he speaks, he could be an asshole. He could be a great human being. He could be on the gray spectrum somewhere in between. But if you instantly classify people like that, you've already shut down lines of communication, and we're going to make no progress. So I feel the same way about you. I think November is going to be wild.
Yeah, and we haven't even hit the October surprises yet. I'm sure there's both camps have it. Brad Pascal, he was Trump's campaign manager. He got fired. He got fired a few months ago, and everybody's like, why would he fire that guy? Blah, blah, blah. He was embezzling, I just read. Okay, then he went crazy, and he was going to shoot himself. They had to take him out. Now he's in the loony bin. There's stuff happening behind the scenes that we don't even know about on our level, right? So you just kind of trust it.
There could be a circus this month. It's my birthday month. It's Halloween, and I'm ready for the ride, man. Because at the end of the day, you know what? I have a certain sanctuary that most people don't have. When you walk in this building, it feels like normal life, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's how my businesses are. We've made it sure of that way.
There's no new normal here. This is normal life. And like I said, there's a beauty in it. I witness people from all sides of the spectrum, from rich to poor to young to old, religious, non-religious, liberal, conservative, and people are just, they treat each other with respect here, and they help each other out. And if we can do it on this level, it is possible on a bigger level. But we have to get away from so much bullshit, 24/7 hate.
The trained hate. And it's getting better. And like you said, over the generations, I think the racism has actually faded. But
100%.
They won't notice it.
You can't argue that.
Yeah.
Segregation was not that long ago.
Right.
There's people alive that lived through that time. We have worked to systematically take out racism from society. Can you get to every dark crevice that it still lurks and the little places where people are still, breeding that type of ideology? No. But can you work to make things better? Yes.
One thing that kind of sticks in my mind that you said earlier is like people don't do the homework for themselves. It's like all these, when they were talking on Twitter, they're coming to burn down Howell. Remember that? And I was at work and it was going crazy. Facebook. Oh, there's
that was a Michigan State employee.
Yeah.
How are there not extreme consequences for that?
Amen.
First of all, I would never go online and say I'm going to. You know what we should do? We should burn down a town because I would expect to get put in jail. I would expect that.
Right. But you know who showed up there? Because they were talking on Facebook, oh, there's armed this, there's armed that. Me and Lincoln, I went home, I'm like, get in my truck. I mean, we're going to Facebook Live this. We drove down there. There's a bunch of 13, 14-year-olds out there with Black Lives Matter sign. All lives matter, in my opinion, okay? I don't care what color you are. But back to your point, they never took the time to research what exactly BLM stands for. It's a hatred group. I'm sorry, people get mad at me. I don't care. I mean, they're burning stuff down. They're shooting police officers. Since when is it okay to shoot a police officer? They're a human being. It's terrible. So this stuff's got to stop. It just has to.
You just touched on something big that resonates with the way that I feel. Like, I actually went to the BLM protest in downtown Hell too, and I was interviewing people and talking to people because, man, like, I believe every human being's life is important. I don't care about your skin color. I don't care about where you were born or your background or what language you speak. You're a human being.
You're somebody's child. You're somebody's brother, sister, whatever.
You're literally a James in a different part of the world that's called something different that if you're a man or you're a female. And with that being said, if you blindly tie yourself to an organization and then that organization does things that you don't stand for, you're fueling its power by backing it. So I will 100% stand alongside anyone in a fight for human rights for the rest of my life. But I would never just blindly tie to an organization without knowing the moving parts of that organization. I could call my organization the Council for Justice and be the most corrupt, horrific. You know, you could name your building the Department of Justice and be the most corrupt part of the United States of America.
They already have one of them.
But like, words do not tie to action. Just because you call yourself something doesn't mean anything. It's your action. So when I was down at the protest, I'm not going to name the gentleman, one of the people that was here got a little bit upset about me because I wouldn't stand and hold my fist in the air, and we almost had like an issue about it. And I'm like, listen, I'm here because I would support any human being that they deserve the same things that I'm entitled to, which is like the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? And like, we should all be entitled to that. But I don't know how BLM operates. I don't know where their money goes. I don't know the corruption within the organization. I don't know things that they might do or might not do that I would not support to any degree. So I won't blindly stand with an organization. I will stand with a belief. I will stand with an ideology that, like, yes, absolutely, black people's lives are as important as any other color lives, right? And like, I get it when you articulate, well, all lives matter. They're like, but this life isn't more. Listen, I'm just saying, if you don't know everything about an organization, you're going down a very slippery slope. You know what I mean? Because you might think, oh yeah, this is a very good, benevolent group. And then they shoot up or a member of their organization, because I'm not saying it's them, does something horrific. I'm not tying myself to an organization. It's just the way it works. So without going further into that, man, we've almost done an hour effortlessly. Flowed, crushed this. Just anything else that you'd like to capture on the podcast? We got this glimpse in time that we're going to have forever. Anything that you'd like to put out there? And then we're probably going to have to do a follow-up one after the election. But one of the things that, like I said, every guest that comes in October, I plan to ask them just like, hey, what's the election look like for you? Who are you supporting? Why? Because at the end of the day, like, man, that is what freedom is. Freedom is the ability to formulate your own opinions and then hopefully express those and work towards a better country. And then we should together collectively say, like, that is bullshit. That it doesn't mean anything. This is right. That is wrong. And that's how you work on things, right? Once you create so much separation that a Trump supporter won't even speak to a Biden supporter, that's a problem more than anything else.
Well, they definitely have. They have the wedge driven right now, and they've done it very well. I mean, the dark state's been busy, and you know what? I'm going to say this: the plan they came out with the COVID and everything else, it was flawed. It worked very well, and I believe that if Joe Biden wins, I don't think he'll be president for very long. I think they're going to do something to him, or they're going to say he's unfit or whatever. And there's the vice president. I'm not going to say her name because I don't even like her. They're going to move her up, and she's going to pick somebody. And guess what? They got a crazy lady in the White House. And that's just the bottom line. I mean, and the worst part about it is, I mean, she prosecuted black people for 20 years. Look at her track record, okay? I am not being a racist. It's a fact, okay? Look what she did. And Biden, you know, he did the crime bill, okay? So, but that's all right. And back to the BLM thing, a lot of these little kids, honestly, truthfully think they're doing good by getting on that bandwagon because they're so ignorant they've never been told what exactly is. They put a banner on their Facebook and say, yay, yay, yay. It's not about that.
Yeah, where are all those donations going? Who are they supporting? What families are they stepping up and helping? Where are they really making their biggest impact? They're getting hundreds of millions of dollars. They have sports teams bowing down to them. Where is the impact? We want to see it.
Yeah,
Make the
money?
lives better, please.
Yeah.
People should not be living in danger or struggle 24/7. Help them.
Follow the money. That's usually follow the money, you know.
Of course,
It's,
with so many things in life.
yeah, and I can't wait to get back to training with you and all that. You know, it's been a while now, huh?
100%, man. I've been busy, you've been busy, but we're all getting back in line. I mean, the success that we've somehow salvaged this year is unbelievable. I mean, Josh Parisian's in the UFC now. Alicia just won a world title. Colin just probably had fight of the season on UFC Contender. He's signed in the UFC now. Cody didn't get in yet, but he's gonna. Cody will get in. We have Taylor and Dante on the borderline. We have SFS Elite launch that is going to produce the best fighters we've ever produced in this building, our newest program. And, things are just fire, man. So, you know what? 2020, when I look back deep down the road, it'll actually be one of the best years in our history. You know, it's just, man, I tell you what, during that March 14th date, when you said it, a little bit of like PTSD hit my brain, and I was like, oh my God, I remember that day. Close everything down. The whole world's going to shut down. And if you go see your grandmother, you might kill her.
Yeah, bottom line is...
That was the message.
You know, my mom still has been home because she has an autoimmune disease.
3 to 10% mortality rate. Remember when they pushed that and I kept fighting people online that I said, listen, you're delusional. And, here we are today. So,
2 million people are going to die. It's just going to happen.
2.2 million. Yep. We're gonna lose up to 2.2. And honestly, with as much as they fudge the numbers, as much as they can blanket anything in there, I'm shocked the number's not way higher. If you could test any single person at the time of death, if they just had, like, let's say, the flu virus in their body, that number would be astronomical. Just call it a flu death. Anyone at the time of death that has any trace of the flu, call that a flu death. And you would have numbers through the absolute roof. But you would be manipulating people. You'd be lying to people. You'd be pushing a false agenda. And you would be doing it for power, for some type of power, some type of control, some type of greed, right? And you know what? Take what I just said, apply that to the current situation. I
agree.
I think we know what's going on.
Awesome.
So, man, truly a pleasure to have you here today, and we'll definitely do a follow-up after the election, and hopefully the world isn't on fire. But if it is, this place is going to turn into a compound, and we're all going to support each other and have a sovereign state. I'm going to say none of that nonsense here. We're going to treat each other with respect. We're going to live better than what we see outside, and we're going to work to make our community stronger. So thank you again, Kevin, and we'll wrap this thing up.
All right. Thanks.